There are so many jokes out there about horrible in-laws and even comedies made about this that's become a cliche. Controlling and manipulative mother-in-laws or father-in-laws who want to use their mafia connections to keep you in line. And in truth, while many of us are blessed with wonderful relationships with our in-laws, there are many others who struggle with them. In fact, dealing with in-laws is probably one of the top issues that people write me about on my website. You know, when you marry into another family, there's always a time of adjusting to different values, different styles of communication, and sometimes a whole new set of dysfunction to deal with. On top of that, it's time for your spouse to redefine their relationship with their parents. It's also a season for your spouse's parents to let go and step back while processing their mixed emotions of joy and grief as they see their adult child move into a new chapter of their lives. And that's assuming your in-laws are relatively healthy and able to navigate these changes successfully. In reality, there are far too many in-laws who struggle to let go, who can be manipulative and controlling, and they'll actually step between their child and their spouse. I hear of far too many stories of crazy-making dynamics between in-laws to ignore this reality. And I also hear of too many adult children who don't successfully navigate that whole leaving and cleaving stage. Instead, they're constantly pulled into the middle of their parents' demands on one hand, and then their spouse's feelings of betrayal for siding with their parents, or their inability to stand up to them. So, what do you do if this is you and you're dealing with difficult in-laws? Now, the first thing to remember is you have no control over your in-laws' actions, and so it's vital that you focus on what you do have control over, which is the choice you make and how you want to handle the whole situation. You can decide how you want to respond to your in-laws. You can also decide how you want to respond to your spouse. And you can also choose healthy boundaries for yourself, and you can take care of your own heart. Remember that the first most important priority right now is you, your spouse, and your marriage. Don't let the conflicts with the in-laws derail your marriage. Because you love your spouse, try to see it from their perspective, being caught in the middle. And try your best to do what you can do to strengthen your relationship with your in-laws. Do it for your spouse and the health of your marriage. Instead of adding to the drama and tension, see what you can do to lessen it. Now, in the midst of that, it's important for you to sort through your own feelings and get to the root of why you're bothered by your in-laws' words and actions. Maybe they're triggering some underlying insecurities or fears in you that would be good for you to identify and address. So for example, perhaps you're sensing their judgment and it's triggering your feelings of insecurity. Or perhaps you're responding this way because of your own historical patterns with other authority figures, notably your own parents. Once you're able to understand your own emotional response and take time to process it, you'll be in a much better place to respond calmly to your in-laws and work to strengthen or repair that relationship without some of that emotional reactivity that can occur when you don't take the time to get a handle on your own emotions. Consider taking the initiative to actually build a bridge with your in-laws. Plan opportunities for them to spend time with you and your spouse, and look for ways you can involve them a bit more in your lives, to the degree that you're comfortable with and still within your boundaries. Don't bend over backwards to accommodate them, but at the same time, give a little. Even better, do it spontaneously and not in response to their manipulation. Once you've built this bridge and your relationship is stronger, you'll then have the opportunity to let your in-laws know how their words and actions have hurt you, and you can help them understand your own emotional needs and your desire to be respected. If you confront them too early with their bad behavior without having invested in a relationship or building their trust in you, you'll likely get their back up so that the tension will increase rather than resolve. Now, if regardless of your efforts, your in-laws refuse to change and they choose to continue in their dysfunctional patterns, then you may need to move towards setting boundaries with them. However, this is really important that you and your spouse are united on this. That means you need to have loving and honest conversations with your spouse. And if that's not possible without conflict and defensiveness, I would strongly recommend that you do this with the help of a good marriage therapist. Talk this through as much as you can and be very clear on what your boundaries are and what consequences you will implement if your in-laws cross your boundaries. If you're not both on the same page, it'll mean disaster for you. You may even consider doing a family session with your in-laws to help you negotiate some clear expectations and boundaries. Now, if you're working hard at setting boundaries and your in-laws still refuse to respect them, then unfortunately, you may have to distance yourself from them. Regardless of family connections, they're boundary crashers that may not be healthy relationships for you or your spouse. Focus instead on strengthening the bonds you have with your spouse and be a support for them as they navigate this reality with their parents.